Hey everyone, it's good to see you guys. I'm really excited. Laura and I are back and we're doing some deeper conversations on what awakened relationships look like.
Yeah, I think it's such a great question. I think we don't see it a lot. So,
Yeah.
although I do like to think that everyone's version of an awakened relationship is whatever they want it to be, depending on their consciousness. But
Hmm.
we don't really see it a lot. It's not quite a thing so much these days yet. It will be, but there's so many avenues that I want to go with the whole topic. So we'll see where it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this conversation just because I think as a culture, we're so inundated with love stories and how love should be, and it causes so much suffering and pain when it doesn't have to be that way at all. Like,
Yeah.
like even I was reading an article from Mark Manson the other day, and he was talking about how Romeo and Juliet was like epitomized as like this love story, but it was actually originally written as a satire to make fun of love, to say that like young, passionate love is like it's actually very dangerous. And I was even doing more research on it, and I found that in the ancient world, love itself, like that young, passionate love, was actually looked at as something that's you stay away from, like
Yeah.
you like something that's not actually healthy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. Anything. It's funny. I mean, that's Romeo and Juliet is a great example of it's a tragic love story, right? But
Mm-hmm.
people have associated the toxicity and the tragedy of something as love. So
Right.
people, the more I cry about this person all the time, I must really love them. I think you're really misaligned somewhere, right? You're really missing something because love. I mean, so this is where I think we can all get to, where we're at a state of consciousness where we love everything. And I think you and I have had this conversation before in general, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I say to someone, well, I love you, but don't let that go to your head, because I also love my cup of tea, and I also love the ocean, and I also love the little ants and worms in the ground. Like, I love everything. So that can be put onto one thing at a time, a person, a relationship, a friend, the worms and the ants. But it's all the same. It can all be the same energy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that we have to. It's funny, I think, how you said recently that underneath every trigger is a safety thing. Remember
Mm-hmm.
that? I totally agree with that. Everything. And if we're fully in the root chakra of feeling completely safe, it's very likely that anything's really going to bother us. We get to see the magic of the universe rather than the tragedy and the toxicity that a lot of people are calling relationships or wanting. And
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said in that. And I think that's where the place comes from, where we can have relationships that fulfill us just as much as our normal life does, because you have to be in a place of being completely fulfilled before you can even think about having that with someone else. And if you're supposed to have it with someone else, you will. If you're not, you won't. But there is this thing as well where people think, I have to be in a relationship. I have to, but the love has to be here. And if it's not here, then you can't put it anywhere. It can't go anywhere.
Right. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I think we're taught that you were saying that like there has to be martyrdom, there has to be, oh, you must save me, or there has to be like really intense, all this intensity and emotion behind it. And then I think that step, like that type of thinking, it's like it's people like it to be that way because then they think that that's them showing how much they care.
Yes.
And so there's like this false association between I really, if I'm emoting a lot and I'm crying a lot and there's a lot of tragedy and sadness and all this drama, then it means I really care. And that care equals love. And
Right.
that's not obviously it at all. Like there's drama and worry and crying. Like it's, some people even define love as worry. Like, oh my gosh, I'm worrying. Like, where are you? Are you okay? Well, I just care about you. I just love you. but really there's some insecurity with them on the inside that they haven't worked through, and that your presence appeases. And so, yes, they are worried, but they're not necessarily worried for you. They're worried about losing you. And it's just that anxiety or the insecurity that's being triggered. So I'm really fascinated by this connection between drama, care, and like false love. And then I'm even more fascinated about the connection of true love and safety. So I don't know, which route do you want to go down first, Laura? Do you want to go down the, like, what I think the fucked up version of love is?
Yeah, the fucked up version. That's always fine.
Okay, I think that's perfect. And guys, I'm seeing some of your questions here. Any questions you guys have, feel free to ask them. Feel free to put them in the comment section, and then we'll get to them at the end. Okay, so what do you think, Laura? Why do you think people get in dramatic and conflictive relationships?
Because it makes them feel alive. Right? It makes them feel alive. I see that all the time when they're fighting through something, when they're striving, when there's drama and conflict, and oh my god, they really get a kick out of that. They really feel alive. That's my simple answer. Because, and of course, there is a misassociation or a misrepresentation that drama is love. But people think that if someone loves you, they fight for you and they go through tragedy for you and they do all this stuff. And like, I wouldn't want anyone that loved me to go through anything like that. Through a snake pit for me. Like, I would never put someone I love through that. And that's where people get mixed up as well, is that I learned this a few years ago. If you love someone, you have to love them enough to let them fall as well.
Yeah.
Some people are really they get toxic, and we think that we're doing them a favor by, I'll just stick around, I'll keep fighting for them, I'll love them, I'll keep them safe. You're doing them no favors at all. They're not out there in the world learning anything. They're being cuddled through a situation or through a huge experience where they're not actually learning about life at all. And that's kind of messed up too. But again, people think, well, that's love. I'm in love, we're in love, or we were, I'll stick with this person. I'll pay their bills, or I'll cuddle them, or I'll, make sure that they feel safe. But actually, if that person's like, I just think, in my experience, when I was in that type of relationship years ago, the best thing he did for me was to leave me.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't love otherwise. You've got to get out there and you kind of got to fall over, and you've got to love someone enough to do that.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah.
Really. It feels great at the time. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sucks for sure. I mean, it's interesting because I think when you have the view of love that it is that dramatic thing, then it's almost like you're using that other person to feel alive and feel stimulated, and you're not actually in love with who they are. You're in love with what they give you. And I think there's a really important distinction, and I was sharing it earlier on my Instagram. There's a really important distinction between being in love with the idea of someone or what it is that they give you, and then being in love with that actual person.
Yes.
And so many times I see relationships, and I've been guilty of this. Like, I'm by no means innocent of this. I've been guilty of this. There's been times where I've been in love with the idea of someone and the idea of who they are for me, not for who they are in actuality. And I remember when I had that breakthrough, I was like, oh my, like, I was in some of the people might be watching know this story. And I think Laura and I, you and I have talked about this off camera, but there's been parts of, I was in one relationship 4 years ago where I almost got married, and I sold my motorcycle to buy the ring, left Philadelphia, went to Pittsburgh. And I remember the moment where I realized, wait, this woman, this girl isn't actually in love with me. She's in love with the idea of us as a couple, and she's in love with the idea of me. And granted, I was probably unconsciously feeding that image unknowingly to some extent. But once I had that breakthrough and I saw through the eyes of my heart, I was like, I was heartbroken. I was like, oh my gosh, wait a second. She loves the idea of me, and she loves the idea of us being a couple and what that brings, like the attention that brings from other people, the attention that brings from society, but not actually who I am at the core. And it was really a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, I've had that too. It is, because when you realize that, it's like, well, I don't know about you, but I went through a whole spiral of like, oh my God, because you feel like you've lost them in that moment when you realize that, and then you realize you never had them. But I think a lot of connections are like that. Even when I started doing my work and was doing like twin flame stuff, people were saying, oh, but he's this and he's this and she's that. And she's like, okay, is she doing that? No, but she really has the potential to, but she's not. Everyone is born of the light. Everyone, including the most evil people in this earth, have the potential to see the light, but they don't.
Right.
And
Right.
so you have to take. This is why I pay attention to people's actions when I meet people.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to watch what you do rather than listen to what you say you're going to do, because that's two separate things. Or fall in love with an idea of what it could be like. Oh, we could have a house, we could do that, we could get a dog, we could have children. It's like I had a client recently, and she's very really beautifully set in her way. She knows who she is, she knows how she wants to live her life. And she was in love with someone who's very opposite to her. He was like a biker guy who wanted to be free, and she was a guru wanting to just be in one place. And she said, oh, but we could live here and it could be amazing. I'm like, but he wants to travel, right? She went, yeah, but if I got him here, he'd love it. But he wants to be out there, and he's always wanted to be out there, and he's never going anywhere else. And she's like, yeah, I really feel like because he's such and so in his heart that we could really have a good time together here. And I'm thinking, I said to her, you're in love with what you think could be. It's not what is, and you can never fall in love with hope.
Ooh, wow. Oh, wow. What a powerful quote. I love that. Can you say that again? That last part? You can
never fall in love with hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's real. Okay, that is really cool. We can unpack that. That's so, and I think that's what keeps people in those drama triangles is they're hoping for the potential to actualize.
Yeah.
And like that's half the drive in drama. It's like, oh my gosh, if you can just you're so close. I know you can be that person that I want you to be, and I'm gonna love you until you're that person. And I think a lot of the times, I've had a client who they thought that they were doing their significant other a favor by trying to help him. So he was in a relationship, and his boyfriend was kind of messing some things up in his personal life. And so his boyfriend my client was really trying to help him through that space and was trying to tell him how to be and how to do things. And then what would happen was his boyfriend would just get upset and angry. And I was like, and I told him, I was like, well, what do you expect? You're trying to change him. Like, yes, you may know what's best for him in the sense of he should pay his bills and he should, get a job. Like, yes, those are all good things. And you can help him get that. But if you're trying to get him to do those things and he doesn't want to do them himself, then he's going to feel like he's just going to start resenting you.
Yeah.
And like, that's what people do is they fall in love with the idea of who a person can be, or they fall in love with that hope. And then they try to change, or they try to influence, or sometimes even manipulate that person into being the person that they want to be.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that their significant other ends up resenting them because they don't, for good reason, because they're not accepted for who they are, even if they are a fuck up.
Yeah. So they have an idea of what it could be, and try and manipulate or shift that person to be what they want them to be, rather than just finding the person that actually already is what they want.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, it's funny. I don't know about you, but if someone tries to tell me how to live my life, I mean, I'm out. I'm totally out. I'm going to listen. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah. But what that person who's, first of all, the person that needs to pay his bills or whatever let him not pay his bills. He's the one that's going to get people after him for money. He's the one that's got to make the phone calls and going to get the letters, and that's not a good place to be in. Let him fall and learn. like a child. They're gonna fall over. You can't pick them up every time. The only way they're going to learn to walk is by falling over a few times, like we all do. Love them enough to let them fall and learn and figure stuff out for themselves. But also, if I was that person where I'm constantly being told who to be and how to live my life, all I would hear is, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And there's only so much that a person can hear that before they do walk away.
Right.
So, yeah. And you're not loving them. It's not unconditional love. It's, I love you if you do this. It's conditioned love, which is not real, genuine love.
Right. Yeah. So why do you think people get caught up in that then? Like, what do you think that's actually about?
I think it's two things. The first thing is actually really, really sweet and easy. People don't trust. They don't trust that what they actually want is out there in the world. That's the first thing. Try and change it, right? The second thing is that it's that feeding off the drama. It makes them feel, it's like an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, that makes them feel alive and stimulated.
Yeah.
So the first reason, I think that's good, because a lot of the times people don't believe that they can just have what it is that they really want. They don't think it's on offer, or they think that they first have to experience a bunch of pain to get what it is that they want, because there's some sort of childhood wounding or conditioning. And that's even worse, because then that drives the drama out further. It's like, well, no pain, no gain. I have to have hardship, because nothing hard worked for isn't like earned, and it's not worthy of my value. But like, I've met individuals who got married when they were really young, and they didn't have those beliefs or philosophies, and they're still married and they love their life and they still love each other. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the relationship I'd rather have. And I went through 3 rough relationships before I kind of finally feel like I understood it. And I'm sure there's still more that I'll learn as I go on. But it seems like there's an addiction to challenge and trying to change a person into the person that we actually want them to be.
Yeah.
And that propensity for human beings to try to continue down a hard challenge route when they don't actually need to, when it's like, dude, you can just say no to that and open your energy field up and open up your perception to something greater and newer, and it'll come. It's like right there. But a lot of the times, I think we just, as a culture and as a society, we haven't been conditioned that way from all of our movies. Like, I think in like all the Disney movies, like every princess is saved, everyone's a damsel in distress. Yeah. There's always like all these things from true love coming together. Like, Ariel doesn't have any feet, and then she loses her voice and she can't be with the prince. And
never really met for a man that she saw for 5 seconds. She traded her entire voice. I mean.
I saw a meme the other day where it was like that prince in The Little Mermaid holding a girl, and the meme said, "Find a naked girl on the beach who can't speak. Seems legit." Like, I'll put a ring on it.
Definitely a good idea, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
If you can watch any Disney film, it's always a really toxic, abusive connection until they fall in love at the end. And people are like, well, no pain without gain, because that is a real thing. People genuinely believe you have to go through pain to get what you want. Because people feel more valid if they've suffered first. It's like people say to you, well, people probably say to you, Jerry, how did you get to where you're at now? People ask me that a lot as well. And you ask other people and they go, wow, God, I did this, I went through that, and then this happened, and then I lost that, and I lost everything, and I did this and now I'm here. And I think, but on the other side, there was blessings the whole way through, which you're not acknowledging. You're making it look like it was pain and suffering.
Right.
So that you feel more important or more valid. Like, I'm more valid to be here. I deserve to be here because I went through shit. Well, we've all been broken. We've all been cheated on or whatever. We've all been through hell. We've all been broke. Like, It's what life is. It's a
Yeah.
like make me any more like I'm no more valuable than the next person just because I had less money in my account than they did, or I had my heart broken more times than they did. It's
there's no there's this narrative that's built around suffering. It's like, I've suffered more than you, so I deserve to be here. And it's like, or you could just step up on the podium if you want to and just take first place. Like,
exactly. Yeah. People find value in the suffering for sure.
yeah. I'm interested to take this conversation a little bit to the right. What do you think is the shifting point for people? Like, we've coached hundreds, probably over 1,000 people now. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at, but I've coached a lot, and I know you have too. What have you seen in your work, Laura, where there's the shifting point that a person's like, okay, it no longer has to be painful. It no longer has to be something there's a lot of suffering around. Like, I'm no longer going, like, I have a client right now who I just got off a call with, and she finally hit that point. Like, she was in like a really abusive marriage for years, and then they broke up, and now it's like all of a sudden she has this great guy coming in, and it's like the challenge isn't there anymore. Like, the challenge of suffering, of pain. And I was really excited because she's like all about this new relationship and opening up to it, no hesitation. And I asked her, I said, are you really ready for this? And she's like, no, I'm ready for this. It feels great. Like, her face lit up. And so what do you think is the shifting point for people from, okay, I no longer want to be in pain, to, yes, I want to have a relationship that gives me joy, that a love relationship that isn't overwhelming and full of drama?
I think there gets to a shifting point where you stop looking at, there's something, I mean, this is how it happened for me. There was something with all the healing I was doing, suddenly, instead of looking at all the negative, I was suddenly seeing all the blessings of the world and of life and of all these things. And when you start actually aligning with how amazing and magnificent the world is, anything less than that is a no-go. Not only you wouldn't let it in, but you wouldn't even look for it. It wouldn't even come, you know what I mean? It wouldn't even make it into your heart. So I don't know if there's necessarily, I mean, maybe it was for you. I don't know if there's a moment, maybe there is, but I know that for me, the more work I did and the more abundant my life became because I was giving in that to myself, I was like, no one's going to come in and disturb my peace.
Yeah. It's like the price is too high. Yeah.
And even to the point where a relationship in general, and I know a lot of enlightened people get to this point, and I've had it myself, I know you've had it already, where you get to the point where you're like, actually, a relationship itself feels like, when you have those moments, and sometimes people get to it where they live a life like this, where you just feel the nourishment of source energy, you feel the nourishment of the earth. You're totally safe. You have everything you need through those two things. It feels like sometimes a relationship is looking for the fulfillment elsewhere. It's kind of like once I used to love eating cheesy burritos. One time, we're talking like 7 years ago, but I did. Now I wouldn't even look at them. I would never touch a Dorito. I just wouldn't. So one time it gave me so much joy. Now I look at it and go, well, that would never bring me pleasure because I've gone to a higher level where I eat more foods that actually have a higher vibration. And then it gets to the point where you don't even want to eat because you're living off prana and source energy and you don't even need that. And it feels like it's the same with relationships where it's like, actually, I'm getting everything I need from all the energy around me. That a relationship would be me trying to find a way to feel loved, but I already feel loved from something even bigger than any relationship could ever give me.
Yeah.
I got to that moment, and that was really crucial. And so when you reach that, any relationship that comes your way, if you want to explore it, if you're supposed to have it, the universe will walk that person into your life, and it feels aligned, and it feels easy, and it feels light, and it feels fun. It's like having a playmate. It's not like drama, communication, talk about this. It's just, oh, this is fun. And then when it's no longer fun, you say, this has been amazing. Should we go our separate ways, babe? Yeah, let's do that. This has been amazing. I'll always, and even the endings could be a blessing and can be well.
Yeah, I love that perspective of like one temporariness. It's just, oh, I can be with this person. If they make my experience of life more enjoyable, then cool, we can continue. And if they don't, then like, why are they here and why am I there for them? Like, why would you ever want, like, I think it's once you realize what's really on offer from life that you can really enjoy and feel and find bliss in it from moment to moment. Why would you ever want anything else?
That's exactly it. I think that's like beyond thinking, but it's real for sure.
Right. Well, and there's no stories. Like we're not given stories around that because like the story of that would be Joe woke up and really loved his life and everything was perfect. The end. Like that's what's exciting or stimulating about that. You can't sell that.
Exactly. No one's going to make any money from that because people want to experience the ups and downs of the emotions. They want to experience it in a movie. They don't want to experience it for themselves. They want to experience it through watching someone go, oh my God, this happened. And oh my God, I'm crying now, I'm laughing. They want to watch it. But if you ask them to have that experience, they don't want it. Right.
Yeah. It's so funny. I remember one point this was 2 relationships ago. I remember just thinking to myself, I feel like there's not enough like stimulation in the relationship, and I just need to stir the pot. And I'll never forget it. I literally had the thought, ooh, I'm going to start being more honest and just see what happens. that was literally the thought. And I laughed at the thought because I was like, holy cow. First off, I'm realizing that I'm not being honest in this relationship, and neither is she if I'm asking myself that question. Like if I told myself I'm going to start being, and it was just a thought, like it was a random thought, but I laughed because I was like, wow, I'm not being honest in this relationship. And then the other part of it that was funny was there wasn't enough stimulation. And so I kind of want to shift towards this area of the conversation where like the connection between conflict, authenticity, and intimacy and security. And I know that's a lot to remember, but I just did a video on this, so it's pretty fresh. So it's the connection between conflict, intimacy, security, and connection. And it was funny because once I started being more honest with her in the relationship, everything started blowing up and getting worse. But at the same time, as things were blowing up and we were learning to actually be in true relationship, it did become more intimate because we were actually being honest with each other on deeper levels about the shit that we were avoiding. Yeah. And so it's really interesting that not interesting. I mean, it's kind of like duh now, but at the time it was pretty mind-blowing to me that the more truthful you are in a relationship, even if you think it's going to bring up conflict, because a lot of times truth is messy and ugly, and it does, you're actually going to feel closer, more connected to your partner in the long run. Maybe not right away, but you will feel more closely connected to them.
Yeah, because if you have those conversations and if you go into that, you're going to go into a deeper level of them, and they're going to understand more about themselves. You're going to understand more about them, vice versa. And so the energy is going to expand between the two of you. It's going to create, it's going to trigger at first because there's a reason why no one's talking about those things, right? Because they either cause pain or usually, in my experience, if I didn't want to speak to someone about something, it was because I thought, well, if I tell them that, they might.
It'll hurt their feelings or they'll leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, that was a big thing as well. I don't want to upset them by telling them this, but that isn't really a thing for me now. I just say it as it is, and I just
No, I know that.
But I'm worried they were going to leave, and I was going to be abandoned. And so things then they build up. It's like a brick wall. I won't say anything. I'll just put that brick in there. I won't say anything. I put that brick in there, and then eventually there's such a big wall you can't knock it down.
Wow. Oh, that's really cool. So it's like every time that you don't share your truth, you're actually putting a brick. And that's building a wall, which is causing a disconnection at an emotional level.
Yeah, my mom taught me that.
That's a really great metaphor.
You're like a woman.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. I've never thought of it like that, because a lot of times we think, and I see this, we think we're protecting ourselves, or we think we're protecting that person when we don't tell them the truth. It's like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings, or I don't want to, make them feel bad. So I'm going to not share that with them. But then one, you're actually hurting them because they're not able to learn their own lessons and grow as an emotional being. And then two, like you said, you're actually building a disconnection up. And I think that's why people can be in a relationship, but still feel very lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember a few years ago when I was in a relationship and there was a trigger that was coming up for me that was upsetting me. And so what I did, and I love this, and I think everyone should do this. What I did, I was like, I was sat on the bed in our house and I was like, can you come and talk to me for a minute? And he sat next to me. We had our legs crossed, we're facing each other. So we're looking at each other. And I was like, can you unfold something for me? I said, I'm going to tell you how I feel. It's got nothing, it's a trigger. It's something you've done, but you didn't do anything. It's how I'm seeing it. And I told him what he did and how it made me feel. And I said to him, why do you think it's making me feel like that? And he said, well, is it this, is it that? And I was like, no. And we talked about it and I was like, oh, could be that. And then he was sort of, has it come from this? And we were going, and we were digging it up and digging it up and digging it up. And then it was, well, actually, I suppose if you're saying you feel like that, I think actually I feel like that. So we're both doing it. Why do you do that? And we literally unfolded it layer by layer. And wow. It was probably a 45-minute conversation. But oh my God, afterwards we both felt light. We learned something about ourselves. We felt more connected. We felt even more in love, if that was possible, because we were very in love. And it was the best. And I was like, if everyone just did this, there was no need for an argument. And, oh, you didn't put the toilet seat down, or you didn't wash up after. Like, there was no need for any drama. It was more like, well, when you do this, it makes me feel like that. And I'm trying to figure out why that is. And then and then it was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I think it's so important to allow your partner to feel safe in your presence, to share what you're being triggered around. Because so many of the times I see it go the exact opposite way. I see someone who gets triggered on the inside, and I have a perfect example of this in my last two relationships ago, where she had insecurity. So she had an anxious attachment style, and I had an avoidant attachment style. And I remember there was one time where she got triggered, and I could tell she was insecure. I knew it. And I asked her about it in a very loving, gentle way. I said, is some insecurity coming up for you? And she would close down because she didn't want to admit it, because she was worried that if she admitted that she was insecure and was acting erratic, calling me up every, however so often, then that would affect the relationship and I would leave. And so it was like her own worst demons were fighting against her in that way. Yeah. And what ended up happening was she started like acting even more erratic. And I was like, what is this about? And I knew it was about the insecurity, but I just wanted to hold safe space so it could actually come up for her so she could see it. And she knew it too, but she didn't want to admit to it because she was ashamed of it. And she felt guilty for even having it in the relationship. And so because she decided to take that burden on and not share it in the relationship and allow us to work through it like you and your boyfriend at the time did, it actually ended up disconnecting us. And I felt like I couldn't connect with her. And I was left thinking, man, should I leave this girl because she's not being honest with me? I feel like she's trying to hide something from me, and I'm pretty sure it's insecurity, but I don't know. And I don't want to accuse her of being insecure. And so it just started like all this big whirlwind. And it was just because she didn't feel like she could share this with me without me leaving the relationship. And there might have been something on my end about that. I definitely wouldn't have. If she just told that to me, I would have, went into it and unpacked it like you did with your boyfriend at the time. So I think it's really important to give your partner safe space to talk about their triggers and their triggers in the relationship, because if you don't give them that safe space, then they hold it onto themselves, and there's a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, which feels heavy. And then ironically, when they hold that burden on themselves, that changes the relationship dynamic with you. And then for most individuals I've seen, they start thinking like, is this person being honest with me? what's really going on. I don't feel as close. So the very guilt and shame that someone may hold on to because they're shameful of those triggers, the very act of holding that on and not working it through with your partner can actually allow the relationship to disintegrate and allow the disconnection to occur.
Absolutely. And I think following on from that, it's, some people like with her, you don't feel like, you kind of feel like that part of you is ugly, and that if they knew you were like that, if you had those feelings, that you'd be left, or that they wouldn't love you as much. But I think the actual truth is that there's something really beautiful about someone when they're vulnerable, or when they're just totally opening up. I mean, I know whenever I was in a relationship, I'd much rather see my guy first thing in the morning with his hair crazy and like half asleep with his eyes shut, than if he was there like getting dressed up with his hair, suit. I'm like, no, I'd rather you first thing in the morning when you're not prepared for me to be seen by anyone, right? Because it's those moments that no one else gets to see. And if you get to share that with someone, those emotions that are in someone, that they don't express those things, when you get to know them on such a deeper level, and you know them more in a way that no one else does, and that's intimate in itself. Knowing and having that with someone, I think.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And guys, I just want to say, if you have any questions that are coming up at all, we're going to go to the questions at the end of the conversation. So feel free to post the questions. Feel free to have it there. And if you like what you're seeing, please share so we can spread this conversation, because I think it's a really valuable conversation for people to have that, frankly, I don't think we have enough of.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I always really enjoyed seeing my girlfriend without any makeup. I always saw her as more beautiful, and I would even tell her that. I would say, "Do you realize that I actually see you as more beautiful without makeup?" And then she would say like, "Oh, well, thank you." And I could see her get really joyous when I said that. And I really meant it. Like, she really was more beautiful without makeup. I didn't like it. I mean, it's not that I didn't like it. She was beautiful with or without it, but I actually preferred her not to wear makeup. Because I felt that was it was just more natural, and I was more attracted to it. And it was funny because whenever I would say that, she would like light up, but then she would like go back into the insecure self and be like, well, I need to wear this in order to still get attention from men. And yeah, it's really interesting, the things that we do to get attention, the things that we think we have to do to get attention and love from other people, when it's already all out there. It's already on offer for us from life.
Yeah. Everything, all the external thing. I mean, when I see someone, I think, oh, I just love that person, or I love being around them. It's because they're really in their heart, and you just fall in love with that. It doesn't matter, So as a woman, I totally understand wanting to wear lots of makeup, and I understand, but for me, the journey, the more I fell in love with my inner self, the less I wore makeup. It's just not something I, connected with. And I don't think I've ever dated a man that hasn't said to me what you said to her, like, I prefer you without it. And then, so for me, I used to be like, oh, what I'd hear is, don't wear any, and I want to wear any, and then they don't love me, like all those insecurities. But now, if someone was to say that to me, I would be like, yeah, I know, me too. So it's all how we feel about ourselves on the inside, and for loving us as who we are. People will fall in love with you if you fall in love with yourself. It's just, I know it sounds really cliche, fall in love with yourself and people fall in love with you, but it genuinely works like that, because you are a magnet, you attract what you are. If you are love, and people want to be around you, especially if you just love people for who they are. This whole conversation, there's an area of it where it's like people just want others to change for them. Well, this person's not doing this, and what if they're not doing that? Well, you either love them for who they are and accept that that's who they are, or you choose yourself and you find someone who does resonate with you, or the first person that's going to resonate with you the most is yourself. But we can't change anyone. We have to let people just be exactly who they are. And if the way they live their life isn't right for you, someone else will resonate with you. But trying to make people, I don't know, different to fit,
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah. Laura, how about we go to, typically we probably go longer, but we're getting a lot of questions here. So I feel like we'll start bringing some people into the conversation. I'm going to go to Amy Kellogg here, and Donald, I see Monica, I see all your guys' questions. We'll get to those. Amy says, how do you deal with a partner who you think may be still talking with their ex, but claim they are not, but you know they are? So that, yeah. I'll let you open up on that one, Laura.
Well, that's a tough one because, I mean, there's two ways to go about this. I'm going to go about this question assuming that this person is correct, because sometimes people are insecure and they think that they are talking to someone when they're actually not.
Yeah, and then self-sabotage the relationship.
Right. Because of their own insecurities, because they've been cheated on, or they don't feel good enough to be the one or whatever. So I'm going to answer this question assuming that Amy 1000% knows that he is speaking to his ex. Okay, I'm going to answer the question from that. Actually, I'm going to ask a question from that. Because you've asked him, he obviously knows that you're not really okay with that. For whatever reason, we won't dive into that. My question to you would be, what are you hoping for here? Like, so you've asked him a question, he's given you an answer, it's not the real answer, you know he's lying. My question would be, what are you hoping is going to happen? What do you need to happen? Because could I be with someone that's lying to my face? No, because if he's lying about something like that, then who knows what he's lying about? And it's nothing to do with the fact that, well, you're lying and I don't like lying. It's more about the fact that I want to connect with people in general that have a bit of integrity.
Right.
And if they can't even be honest about a text, how are they going to be honest about how they feel in their heart, about having a family, about how they see the world, about what they've been through? Like, it goes so much deeper.
Yeah, and she commented, I'm going to bring that back up. I just want to add to that, like, Amy, connection, like if a person's lying to you in a relationship, that breeds distrust. Like, this question is coming from a place of distrust. And as soon as distrust starts happening, there's suspicion, there's fear, there's anxiety. The relationship naturally starts to erode. So it's going in a direction of distrust and disconnection, and that's definitely a space that isn't healthy for a relationship. And so if someone's not being honest with you, like Laura asked a great question, what's your end game? Like, what are you really hoping for? Because if he's lying to you and he knows he's lying to you, that's not a good thing. Like, that's not that. It's probably not going to get any better and you wouldn't even know because he's lying. And so there's no other way to go about that. So I'm going to bring up what Amy's saying here. She says he ended going back to her. And then she says, no, I ended up walking away. So I'm guessing, Amy, what happened, and Laura, I don't know if I'm interpreting this the right way or the wrong way, because we need a little bit more context, but I'm guessing that he was with a girl, she connected with him, and he was still involved in the other girl, and then he said, I'm not going back to her, but now she's suspicious of whether he's going back to her or not. That's what I'm thinking. So these situations are really complicated. And anytime that I've ever gotten into a relationship, I've always told the other person, look, we're not getting involved at all until all things are closed. Like, I even remember I was in the last relationship I was in with a girl. She had kind of just broken up with her boyfriend. They were kind of still talking. And I just let her know. I drew the boundaries and I said, look, I really care for you, but before I give you my heart, and before I give you my love and attention, I don't want him around. And it's not insecurity. It's coming from a place of I want to have a focused relationship with you. I'm not going to be talking to any other guys or any other girls. I want to be focused with you. And I want that reciprocated back. And that was my standard for the relationship. Yeah. And so I think the important questions to ask here, Amy, is what Laura said. What are you hoping for out of this relationship? And then 2, what are your standards for a relationship?
Yeah, you have to have standards, and you can't ever drop them.
Right.
Or let that waver a little bit, because I suppose you didn't mean it like that. No. Otherwise, you might as well not even have them.
Right.
But yeah, I'm the same. It's like, even if they broke up with them 6 months ago, if there's still connection, if there's still communication sometimes, or sometimes they send her money, or sometimes like, no, there's no connection at all with anyone else, because you do want it to be focused on you. And if there's still a physical attachment, emotional attachment, anything, that energy is going to come into the relationship. And relationship in my opinion is pretty sacred. It's between two people, not three. No judgment. Like that. For me, it's about two people, and I don't want any other people's energies muddying up what I'm creating, because I'm not letting anyone else in. So that's how I would see it. And I think that's really good for people to remember. If you are thinking that you want to be ready for a relationship, if you are, it will come to you. But use that as a really good guideline. If you're going to even think about getting into something, make sure everything else is closed off.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And Amy said, basically, let me bring it up here. She said, yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, we're glad we can help you out with that, Amy. I'm going to go to some other questions here. Hey, Victoria, I see it. Is this one of yours? Okay, this isn't a question. So Truth Seeker says, this is Victoria.
Remember, we did a session recognizing the name. I think I've probably worked with about 5,500 people now, so it's not personal. I don't remember anyone.
Sorry, Victoria. We just both work with a lot of people. It's nothing personal. I'm going to go to Donald here. Donald says, fantastic show, fanatic show. I feel unattached, unconditional love for my girlfriend. I feel like she is more of a show me, validate me type. Could you please talk to this? I think he meant to say fantastic show, not fanatic show.
I like both. I'll take both.
I like both too. It can be both. Hey, it can be fanatical. That's fine with me. But he says, I feel unattached, unconditional love for my girlfriend. I feel like she's a more of a show me, validate me type. Could you please talk to this? Okay, yeah, I see what's going on here. Do you want to take that, or?
Well, it's interesting because I've been in so many relationships. I see this clearly now. Everything is a mirror.
Right.
Everything. So although we'll talk about her in a minute, but if she is that, there is 1,000% going to be a level of that in you somewhere. Even if you don't express it the way that she's expressing it, there is something in you that very likely it is going to look for validation somehow, some way. Now, you might not express it in the sense that you want her to tell you that you're handsome or whatever, but it could be in a way like going to the gym. You do it so you feel strong, so that you feel like a real man and you're valid. Or you have fancy cars, or you flash watches so that you feel like you are truly who you are. So I feel like there's always a level of whatever is in them is within us somewhere, even if it's at the deepest level. I seriously 1,000% really believe that. And as for her needing that, well, it's tough. Because I haven't been in a relationship like that for so many years, because I can't be the one. I give love and compliments consistently because it comes from my heart, but I can't give it to someone who's asking for it.
Right. I love that. Okay, beautiful. All right, nice. So what I'm seeing here, Laura, is that he just loves her for the sake of loving her. Like, it does seem pretty unconditional, but she is looking for a type of love that is more of a taking, like, I need it. Whereas he's just like, I have it. It's all with me, baby. And you can fill up on it because I'm here. But there's something within her that needs that. And needs that, like, is like, I need this validation, because if I don't have it, then what am I? And then there's that pit of, emptiness. But here's an interesting thing about the mirror work, Laura, and I would love to hear your perspective on this. I found that if you're physically connected with that person in that way, you actually take on their wounds. So like Donald, I mean, he could be in a completely fulfilled, unconditionally loving state and be there, but just because he's connected to her energetically, he might take on that wound and then get her reflection back. Like it's, you see what I'm saying there? Like, I've experienced that before.
I've had that. If someone is really untrusting, I've been with them and I'm like, I feel like I trust you. I think, but I've never had that I've never ever had that ever in a relationship ever. Why is that coming up?
Right.
Right. And it's not. It doesn't feel good. I couldn't do it. It's not.
Yeah, whenever clients come to me and I'm like reading their quote unquote reading their mind, they're like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "Oh, well, my mind, I wasn't having any thoughts, and then when we connected energetically, I started having these thoughts, and I know they're not mine, so they must be yours. So let's go into that."
Yeah, exactly. 1,000%. It's so important to connect with people that aren't carrying so much, because you're going to be carrying that just, with them alongside it. But the other interesting thing is, if we really want to go fanatic, like if we really want to go into it, if you loved her unconditionally, would you even be asking this? Like, if he loved her unconditionally, would he be saying, but she needs this and she needs that? But if you love someone unconditionally, do you just let them be that? And if it doesn't work for you, you don't be with them. And if it, like, that's also a question I would be interested in hearing out, or at least having him look at that within himself. Because I think if we love someone, like, I have friends that have their own crazy stuff, like I've got them, but it is what it is. I love them. So I don't know whether you'd be questioning or asking that if you did love someone unconditionally as well. But that mirror work is going to be important, because I can guarantee, if you connect with someone that really needs validation, there's somewhere in you that you need validation. You might not need it from her. You might need it from Rose at the gym or your boss, but you need validation somewhere in your life.
Right. And it's just coming from a different place. Like, we can't run from our shadows. Yeah. If we run from our shadows out in the forest, then our shadows show up out at the lake house. And if we run from our shadows from the lake house and we go down the basement, shadows get reflected in the basement. And that's really ultimately how life works, guys. Like, you're always going to, no matter what corner you run to, no matter what corner you run to, it's always going to be there. Yeah, I'm glad that helps, Donald. And there's a lot more to unpack there, man. There's a lot more to unpack there. I asked us to understand her more. Yeah, beautiful. To understand her. Yeah, and that could be it too, just to understand who she really is on a deeper level, and because you love her. That makes perfect sense. Okay, so I'm gonna go to another question here up to Mariana. So Mariana says, may I say that sometimes our standards may be idealistic and therefore unrealistic? What is your take on this? Yeah, I mean, I love this. I see this all the time. I think a lot of the times people are in love with the idea of a life. They're in love with the idea of a relationship. They're in love with the idea of a lifestyle. But there's always like hardships to that reality. Like, a good example of this, I remember for me, I was like, I just want to travel the world and then run a business online. And like, that's still pretty cool. Like, it's still pretty badass. But then when I kind of started doing that, I was like, well, Wi-Fi is really hard to find in third world countries. I miss just waking up in one spot and knowing that I'm physically safe. Yeah. And like, yeah, I might be on this nice beach, but and like for some people that's it. And like, I could totally see myself living that type of lifestyle now that I know what comes with it. But like, the goal of consumerism and all marketing out there in the world is to get you to believe in the idea of something more than the actual reality of it. Yeah. And that comes down to relationship, that comes down to business, that comes down to anything.
Yeah, there's going to be hardship with everything. Relationships, work, everything comes with, because otherwise you never learn and grow. The most important thing is how you deal with the situations when they come up. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that we have to lower standards. We can have high standards and trust that something or someone will meet them. Even if so for example, you had 5 things on a list that you think the person I want to be with has to embody all 5 things. You meet someone that has 4. For me, what I try to do is to say, okay, so I'm close. They haven't got the 5th thing. I know I need the 5th thing, but thank you. We're getting there. Let's keep going, right? So there's eventually come in if we're patient enough to wait and not accept the crumbs in the meantime. But we can definitely have high standards and know what we want, but you also have to know that it's not going to be perfect every second of every day, because first of all, there's no such thing. And second of all, you don't learn in any shape or form if everything's always flatlined.
Right. Yeah. And I think this is also the importance of like knowing that we're always going to get more than we bargained for. And I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. Like, let's say you have, 10 things on your list of what you want in another human being. You actually might get all those 10, but you might also get 5 or 10 that you don't want either. And it's like, well, maybe I should have been more descriptive. And also I didn't know, like I remember for me at one point in my life, I was like, man, I just want to have a badass chick with tattoos who's super hot and sexy. And like, that was like, it was really superficial and fictitious. And I got that. And for the first 3 months, I was like, man, this is awesome. And then all the emotional daddy issues started coming out. And I was like, well, shit, I didn't really think about this side of things. But then that relationship helped me get closer to what it was that I actually really wanted. And so life has this funny way of working. It gives us more and more experience and more reflections of what we think we want to get us closer to what it is that we actually desire.
Exactly. It's like a catalog of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just living on the journey. Yeah. That's just living on the journey. And I think being open to that and willing to take that risk is really courageous. So if anyone's watching this and you guys are in a situation where you see yourself wanting something, whether it's wanting a relationship or wanting something in your life, and you have it really cataloged and down, and then you get those things and you find yourself that you're actually still wanting more. I would challenge you to be open to receiving more. And that might be scary. Like we were talking earlier, Laura, about how some people will just, they won't go after those things that they really want because they think that it's not possible. But really, like time and time again with myself, with my clients, like life is always willing to give you more if you're willing to be open to it and you're willing to actually believe that it's that, if it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm going to go to some earlier questions up here. I promised some people, Amy, let's see, Mariana. Okay. I'm going to go to Monica's question. Hey, Monica, I know you've been waiting for a while. Monica says, questions on triggers. If you already know your main triggers and working to heal them, is it good to be open about it at the start of new relationships or only when it comes up?
Just trying to think. I feel like we've got an answer to this, but I would say when it comes up. Because if you say it at the beginning, you're setting the stage for, have you ever had a relationship where someone goes, yeah, they left me because I was too needy. And then suddenly the next day, like, they really are needy. And you start to see it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, this person is really flawed in some way. You're kind of setting the tone. You want to enter a relationship. You want to be your best self and enter the relationship as your best self and try and stay as your best self throughout the whole thing. There are going to be triggers, and that's the point where you go, do you know what, babe? This kind of triggered me yesterday. Can we talk about it? And they'll respect you so much. If they're the person for you, they'll be able to stick with you and walk through it. But I think if you go in and set the precedent with, by the way, these are all my flaws. Do you want me? Like, first of all, they can't say yes or no because they don't know what it's like to live with someone with those wounds. So they can't answer them until they've experienced what it's like. But also, you're kind of like diminishing yourself and not honoring yourself. And you're bringing all the past that you've been through and saying, this is my bag. Do you want it or not? And you're not giving them the opportunity to experience life with you. I think we learn more from learning and like being in a situation than to be told. If someone said to me, if I met someone and he said, oh, I have trust issues and I have issues in abandonment and I was cheated on, I've had this and I've that, do you want to be with me? I would say, well, I don't know, I guess we'll see what happens. But then I'm going to start looking for it because it's the law of attraction. You hear something and you see it more. Whereas if I'll just go with it and then something triggers, then we'll talk about, that's how I would see it.
Right. I love that. Well, it's a lot of the times we can make a situation way worse just by thinking about it ahead of time. So It's like, life usually tends to work itself out. That's what I've noticed is things usually just tend to work themselves out. So if you come to a relationship and it's like, okay, here's my laundry list of shit. That's item 1, and then you go down it and like you got everything. Like if that's the start of the relationship, some people might appreciate that, but also others might think in that moment, wow, this is probably going to be a lot of work. And I don't know if I want to do that. when in reality, it actually may not. And I love this. I actually love the fact that this conversation is going this way, because I think sometimes people think that every single issue or trigger has to be worked out. And I remember I used to think that about in a relationship too, where it was like, if I have this coming up and this trigger's here, then I got to work through this pattern. We have to have a conversation about it right away. But it's funny, like I was watching, who was it? It was a little kid the other day. I can't even remember who it was. I can't remember. I don't know if I can't remember if it was a family member or friend, but it was a little kid, and he was throwing this fit. Yeah, it was just a random person, and he was throwing this fit, and the mom didn't react to it any at all. He was just throwing this fit, getting upset, and like he sat down on his butt and was like, "I'm not moving," and then the mom. Like some moms, like I know if I did that when I was little, my mom would get upset and she would like probably throw a fit and be like, let's go, and like try to fight me for it. But the mom just stood there and was like, hey buddy, whenever you're ready to get up, we can go. And like, that was all she said. She's just like, whenever you're ready to get up, we can go. She didn't go into, why are you feeling this way? Or, oh, what's the matter? Oh, do you want a popsicle? She just said, when you're ready to get up, we can go. And like the kid sat there for 2 minutes and like she didn't leave him. She was supportive, holding the space, loving him, but she wasn't like coddling him at all.
Yeah.
And like the kid after and I was really fascinated by it. So I stayed and kept watching. And the kid after 2 minutes, like kind of like just stopped and then like got up and then he was like happy again. And I had this mind-boggling moment about every single relationship in my life where I've always like, oh, you got a trigger coming up, or, oh, you got something like, let's go in this. And I think like sometimes it is worth unpacking. Like if you see it coming up over and over again, and it's actually affecting the quality of the relationship, then it's worth going into. But some triggers, like sometimes they're not even worth going into. Like sometimes it's just, hey, I'm here. I love you. I see you. And I'm gonna be here in the corner. And whenever you're done, you can come back.
Yeah.
And like, that's a really beautiful space to be in a relationship, because I think you hold like a higher elevation at that point energetically for your partner to kind of, they're in their funk and then they spin around in their funk and then they come back again. And it's not like you leave them there, but you hold the space, but you don't actually go down into it either.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think I know a lot of my clients, they'll say, this came up and I looked at this and I looked at that. And I'm like, well, that's all great. But you really don't need to do that much work. If it's a cycle, if it keeps coming back and it's pulling you down, like it's pulling your energy down and it keeps upsetting you, yeah, totally go and look at that. But you have a bad day or a bad 5 minutes. Like I know sometimes, I mean, I can't remember the last time, but I know there are times where I just think I just need to cry for 20 minutes. I don't know why. I'm having a weird day. And I'll cry and then I'm like, well, I feel better now, whatever that was. Like, there's no need to look into it. You just let it move through and you're on to the next thing. And it can be the same for your person. It's not personal. Let them have a tantrum for 20 minutes if they need to. And then just be waiting on the couch with dinner when it you don't need to go into things like all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really cool. And, like you shared with me in one of your relationships, Laura, in the past, where like you just held this space and you were like, look, I see what's coming up for you. I see what's going on. And like, I'm here. I'm not going to like baby you or coddle you through that. Like I care for you and I love you and I would love for you to be in this with me. But, it's like, I'm not going to sacrifice myself for any of this. Like I'm here if you want it, but if not, like that's all you. And like, that's a place of power. And I think that's a really beautiful place to come from in any relationship.
Yeah. It's like what we were saying at the beginning. If you love someone, you've got to love someone and have to let them fall. And there are moments where you got to gauge it with your intuition. There are moments where you need to just sit and hold someone. There's other moments where you just got to let them go and do it and fall and be in pain for a minute, because they're going to learn something from going through that, and you can just hold space and wait for them when they're done.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm going to go to Dezin's question here. She says, what if your partner refuses to acknowledge your mental illness and makes fun of you when you're experiencing a bad trigger? mean, right off the bat, I mean, that's not a healthy relationship at all. I mean, it's not supportive. If a person's making fun of something that you're struggling with, why would you even want that type of support? Like, it's not support. Like, why would you want someone in your life who hurts you or brings you down?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. I hope that helps, Desan. Let's look at some other questions. How are you feeling, Laura?
I'm good. I can probably go for like another. How many more questions do you want to do you think? I don't know how many we've got.
Maybe like maybe 4 more questions, 3-4 more questions, and then we'll close it up.
Yep.
Perfect. So I'm going to go down all the way to the bottom because I know there's a lot more questions coming up. Let's see what we got here. So this is, do you believe it? This is Truth Seeker. They say, do you believe a casual relationship can be awakened? Enjoy the person in the present moment until the time is done. Do you believe a casual relationship can be awakened? Enjoy the person in the present moment until the time is done.
I understand the question.
I understand it now too. Yeah, I just got it.
I was just holding space for you and letting you see. That's about example. I'm not going to sit and read it to you or explain it. I'm just going to let you read it again. I'm just trying to have an example. You get it now, right?
Yeah. You want to go first?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the labels of like casual in a relation, like I'm kind of at the point where I'm kind of stepping away from labels, and I just think if you have a connection, it's just life in general, and just it's forming itself in new ways. Because I even think that real close, intimate connections can end the same way. It's like, I think we're done. Cool. See you. This has been great. Good luck on your next chapter. I'll catch you in the next life. So I just want to take that word out for a moment. But if you have a connection with someone and it's working for you, then yes. If it's not triggering you or causing pain, I feel there's a little bit of
wanting that person to be someone they're not.
Yeah, that's the energy I'm picking up on, but I don't want to go into that because I think that's the person's energy I'm picking up on. But I do feel like actually there is more that person wants. I just think be careful as a woman, be careful who you let inside your body. As a guy, be careful who you let on your body. And because that's the only caution that comes from me comes with. If you want the casual and if it genuinely works for you, if you really just accept them for who they are, know that one day they're going to walk away, you can be in that, then that's your truth. But I don't feel that's quite the case in this place, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Truth Seeker, one of the biggest things that I realized was, I was in relationships where I felt like I was quote unquote more awake or more aware than the other person. And I wanted them to be at the same level as me. And so what I started doing was I tried to educate them, talk to them about all these things, make them like watch documentaries with me that I thought could influence them. And they started to grow to resent me because I didn't accept them for who they were and where they are at. Yeah. And the key thing here to recognize is that people grow at different paces as well, too. So this person may very well have the ability to be the person that you want them to be, but by the time that they might be that person, you're going to be a different person. Yeah. And I know for me, if my value system has always been transformation, self-actualization. I mean, that's how I got into this. There it is. Got into this work. And when I realized that this person didn't have the same value systems as me, I just came to accept that, you know what, they're not going to grow as quickly as I am because they don't value transformation and actualization as much as I do. And they're going to continue to grow, but in their own way. And so I think it's really important just to recognize that people may have the potential and may be going in the same direction as you, but by the time that they get to the place that you're at, however you're choosing to compare to them, which that in and of itself is a whole nother topic, you're already going to be a whole nother human being. And so it's always going to be like, oh, come on. And that's not a true loving relationship. That's a relationship that says, we can finally be together and have a great intimate connection when you're at the same level as me, either mentally, emotionally, or energetically, spiritually, however you're choosing to compare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 But there's someone else out there who can be at that same level as you. Great finish. I felt like the energy totally just dipped. So I wanted to end on a good note.
I think that whatever level we're at, we have to accept that there are people we're going to learn from, people are going to learn from us. No, I don't know if we're always going to all be on the same level. I go pretty quick. Some people go pretty slow. Sometimes I go slow. We're all going to be moving like this. But if you're with someone and you enjoy their company and you enjoy it's really looking at someone and saying, do I like the way that they live their life? And does that align with me? Do they want to grow? Are they willing to look at themselves? Do they want to have fun? And that, if the way they live their life aligns with the way you live your life, you're set to go.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. Beautiful, guys. We're going to take time out for 2 more questions here. And guys, if you like what you're seeing and this has been really helpful, please share. We'd love for this conversation to go out and spread. It's the types of conversations we need to have. Plus, it's how I get paid. All right, so I'm going to go to Mariana here. Mariana says, in my country, domestic violence has increased 30% these days that we are quarantined. What is your advice for these days of isolation? Yeah, definitely. Domestic violence is definitely increased because a lot of people's inner demons are coming up. They're being forced to be in one space and deal with the inner demons. So it may not be pretty at first, but once those inner demons are gone, like they're not there anymore. Mm-hmm. Oh, good. She says I just answered it. Cool.
Oh, cool.
Cool. I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right now it's really interesting because everyone's being isolated and, I know some people are just getting drunk and other people are just avoiding all the real issues, but I think it's actually a really good period for people to deal with all the stuff that they might have not been dealing with. Like for Laura and I mean, our lives really haven't changed much at all, if anything at all. Like, is everything
stuck in the house? Like I've worked from home for 4 years and nothing's changed.
Yeah.
It's not really a big problem. Everyone's scared that they're going to run out of food. I'm like, I live off prana pretty much.
Yeah, I have like two fruit shakes a day, and like that's good enough for me.
Carrots in my fridge and some lentils in the cupboard, and I'm good. Like I don't need.
Yeah. It was so funny when I had like 1 second when this whole thing broke out, where I was like, "Should I go and stock up on like food?" And then I was like,
"No."
That's the dumbest thought that I've ever had. And then I went and made myself a fruit smoothie. Beautiful. Guys, we have time for one more question here. One more question.
Do we have one more
question? So Amy has a question here. She says, that's something else. I think those are 2 people connecting. All right, we're going to take one more question going once. I'm going to scroll up and see if there's anything else here. Okay, here we go. So Suzuka says that I walked away from my twin. He was mirroring me for sure, had the passion and butterflies, but it was bad timing. He jumped into a marriage after 2 months with a girl. I still feel the energetic bound. You want to take that one, Laura, or you want me to take that one?
I'll
take it. Okay. I'll take it for a little bit. We'll double team on it or whatever. So my question to you, Suzu, would be, what part of you still wants him? Because if you still feel energetically bound to him, then there's still a part of you that wants to be close and connected to him. That's just the truth of the matter. Yeah. And even though he jumped into a marriage with another woman so quickly. So if there's a part of you that's still energetically connected to him, it's because there's a part of you that still wants a man. And my question would be, why would you want a man who doesn't want you and who wants another woman? And I know that might be really hard. And you might be thinking like, man, this guy's kind of an asshole right now for saying that. But the truth of the matter is, I just felt that go through. The truth of the matter is like he went with another woman. And that might mean that he still has he has feelings for the other woman. I'm not saying that he doesn't have feelings for you or doesn't still love you. But my question to you is, why would you want to be a man who's conflicted about what woman he wants to be with? Like for me, if I'm with a woman, I'm with a woman and it's just her and she's my pride and my treasure and nothing else comes inside of that. Nothing.
Mhm.
And like that's the type of relationship that makes human beings feel most safe and secure. Is like that's just evolutionary pair bonding right there. We one person and we feel safe. I'm not saying that you can't be polygamous or you can do whatever you want, but what the truth here is that he left he went to go see another woman, and I know you still feel energetically connected to him, but the best thing that you can do is let go of that desire for men who aren't available for you. And my question would be, why do you what's that about, going after men like that?
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, because I think that what it goes back to falling in love with hope again.
Yeah.
What we think that could have been rather than what it actually is, which is that he's with another woman and he married her after 2 months. I mean, wow. He might really be looking to feel safe and secure or whatever he needs after 2 months to marry someone. But it goes back to, are you in love with what you thought it could be, or are you actually in love with the type of person he is?
Yeah.
My guess would be the first one, because otherwise you're in love with the man who would do that, not be available for you and go for someone else and leave you behind. That doesn't show much character in my opinion. So that's where I would go with that. Same as you.
Yeah.
Women we would love to coach her, right? That would be a really good session.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, Suzu, why don't you come on for live coaching and we'll actually go into this a little bit deeper, because I feel like we're giving you some hard truth bombs. And I think it would be better if you actually had some safe space to really integrate this and bring this up. So what I'm going to do is, if you look in the link in the YouTube description box there, there'll be a link and you can sign up for live coaching at that link. And what I'll do is I'll also actually share that link here in the comment section. And guys, if you want to be coached live, or if there's something that you're really concerned about or worried about, or if there's something that's really coming up for you that you're trying to figure out what's going on, just click the link in the description box and you can sign up for live coaching, and Laura and I will go deep with you and we'll hold space for you and we'll unwind some of those things.
Yeah.
And we'll get you into a better space where you're feeling more aligned to yourself. Also, if you want to check out the link, it's in the comment section there as well too. So I think it'd be good to end on a good, positive, lighter note. I think that's always a good way to end it. Really, when it comes to what an awakened relationship looks like, and I guess we never got to this point.
Pockets of it. We went into pockets of it by exploring the other side of what it isn't, I suppose.
Right. So really, I guess what an awakened relationship looks like is one where you can be free to be who you are. I think where you feel safe, where you feel secure, where you feel safe to share your triggers and not be judged or criticized, where you're not afraid of conflict. And when conflict does arise, you can manage it and work with it in a way that's healing and that doesn't breed more distrust or anger. Mm-hmm. I think that's what an awakened relationship looks like. You want to finish up with what you think, Laura?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I always think that any version of something that's conscious, it kind of reminds me of the Tao, which is that is the Tao can't be named. If we name something or label something, it suddenly becomes something that it's not. So maybe the reason that we never even really went to what a full conscious relationship is because it just is.
Yeah.
conscious. So along the lines of exactly what you said, which we've talked about, like you can communicate with someone, you can be free, you don't have to walk on eggshells, you can express yourself and they can express themselves with you. You guys have fun together, life's fun together, all those things, which is what an awakened relationship is like. And then there's that part where, you know, maybe it just doesn't really have a name. Maybe it is something that hopefully everyone gets to experience. I know I've had pockets of experience. I mean, it really is I don't know. But then I wouldn't label it either. It's difficult, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because our concepts of there's like what our ideas of life and what we think how life should work, and then there's life proving us wrong and how it actually works.
We have to
And
be
so,
humble, right, in life, because we're always being proved wrong by something else. Like
right.
humble
Yeah.
to learn, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We really look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Some announcements on the books. We do have 2 things going on tomorrow. So the first thing is we have a live interview with Susan Winter. I'm really excited about this interview. Susan has been on the Oprah show. She's been in Cosmopolitan. She's been an entrepreneur. She's been in over 600 media outlets. She lives in Manhattan. She has a channel called Susan Winter. She's a relationship coach. She's really got a lot of great things to share with us. That interview will be going at 5 p.m. Eastern time, so be looking for that. If you haven't gotten notifications for that, all you got to do is register with the link below in the description box, and you'll be notified when that's coming on tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern time, Laura and I will also be coaching someone live as well too. So if you guys want to stick around for that live coaching session at 8 p.m. Eastern time, it'd be a delight to see you guys. Yeah. If you want to sign up for live coaching, the link is right there in the YouTube description box. We'd love to have you guys join. We wish you all a merry night. Blessings to you and your family. Stay safe. Please share this video with any other people if you found value with it, which I'm sure you did. And we love you all. Have a wonderful night, you guys. We'll talk to you soon.